Hey guys, Luna here, and welcome back to our life. Let's just get right back into it, shall we? We just did some errands, and so now let's go with the talks. Another placid summer day was drifting by. Your daydreams were chasing each other, none sticking around long enough to become a firm plan, but you didn't really mind that right now. A tapping worked its way from those dreams. Focusing more, you realized it was coming from your window. A grin popped on your face as though it had been waiting for all day for this moment. Heading toward the window, you could see Cove outside. His habit of climbing this way really was a true Coveism. He'd rather scale your house than wait a couple extra minutes for you to come down. You had out a hand to him. You offered a hand to help him. Once he was mostly inside, he took it to help steady the last bit of his entrance. He needed the help, despite how many times he had done this.
Hey.
Hey, Luna. Sup? Welcome home. Think my mom should have invested in some bigger windows. Cove laughed at that and took one last look at his exclusive entrance. He hummed with a teasing look on his face. Maybe. Cove's voice came out quietly, with a strangely pleased smile on his face. Did something happen? Cove opened his mouth to answer, only to have your phone vibrate and cut him off. You both turned to where it was rested up a little further up on your bed. It was still face down, so you couldn't tell who was calling. It's okay. Your attention shot back to Cove. He smiled at you awkwardly.
Don't worry about it.
Go check. It could be important. I'll wait. Thanks. You shuffled forward and scooped up the little noisemaker into your hand. You flipped it over and checked the caller ID. It's Miranda. You should answer it. I want to say hi to you. With a nod, you accepted the call and said to speaker, Hi, Miranda. Hi. There was something off about her tone. Cove met your gaze, and you saw the same confusion in her expression.
Have you heard from Terry?
Have you heard from Terry at all, or did you hear about her from Cove? No, she hasn't called me, but Cove's with me right now. Hey. Oh, hi, Cove. Is that what you're gonna say? He shook his head no before realizing that wasn't a good enough answer when one person couldn't actually see it. No, Terry hadn't called me today either. What, is something wrong? At that, Miranda couldn't hold herself together any longer. The muffled sobs on the other side of the line were unmistakable. Terry doesn't like me anymore, if she ever did. What? That doesn't sound right. You're probably her best friend out of all of us. Yeah, why do you think that? She sniffled, and there was a pause as you could hear her shift the phone to her other hands. Terry was here the other night watching movies with me. We were up super late. She realized her parents probably went to bed so they couldn't pick her up. My mom or dad were definitely asleep, and dad worked super early. I tried telling her it was okay just to spend the night and she could text her parents what happened, but Terry didn't really want to. You glanced at Cove. He looked equally unsure as you about where the story was going. It didn't sound like a friendship ending situation. I suggested things to make it easier if she was nervous, like she could sleep by herself in my room while I stayed somewhere else. Yeah, and I said we didn't have to sleep at all. We could have kept watching movies until one of our parents woke up. I wouldn't have minded. I know that not everyone can do sleepovers, but Terry wouldn't even tell me what was really wrong or what I could do to help. I thought we could tell each other anything. I guess I was wrong. Did she stay on the end? No, but we got too loud in the kitchen. My dad woke up. He offered to drive her home when we heard what was wrong. She texted me to apologize for my dad having to do that when he needed to rest, but that was it. She wasn't talking to me anymore. You could hear every bit of the tears and heartbreak in Miranda's voice. This continued to be a shock for your neighbor, but Cove recovered and spoke gently. I'm really sorry. There's no way Terry wanted to make you feel this bad or that she just wanted to be done with your friendship because of this. Miranda sniffled and continued. You hope she had plenty of tissues handy. It was really weird that you reacted like that. You couldn't wrap your mind around it. This seemed so unlike Terry, and maybe that's why it was bothering Miranda so much. Miranda's voice sounded a little bit more collected after finishing her story, but you knew she was crying was far from being done. I thought she would have reached out to one of you by now. Maybe she's not talking to anyone. Yeah. Sorry for bothering you and Cove about this. Apology accepted. Don't worry about it.
Right,
you can tell us things. Thank you. Her shaking voice was finally conveyed a little optimism, or at least relief that she wasn't dealing with it entirely on her own.
Is that all right?
If you do hear from her or anything, could you let me know if she's alright? I can. Thanks. Let's talk later, okay? Bye. 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 That didn't really seem like an especially productive point to end the call, though you weren't sure where to go from there. Looking to Cove, his face seemed to as lost as yours. With no alternative, you hung up and put your phone back on your bed. Cove crossed his arms, a frown creasing his face. He began to pace the length of your room, clearly trying to put the pieces together in his head in a way that made sense. You're pretty confident about this working out well. It was no fun hearing Miranda so sad, and you're definitely empathized, but right now there was no really reason to get worked up. It was only a matter of time until Terry reached out to someone, and you were sure hearing her side of things would clear it up. The empty state of your head before learning this was not helping you now. You couldn't put two thoughts together, and flopping back onto your bed, you stared into space. We should probably just try calling Terry. Cove's voice managed to drag you back into some grounding. He stopped pacing, but you still saw a perturbed look on his face. Is that really something we should get involved with right now? Cove's mouth pressed into a hard line. At that moment, it seemed like the two of you were only on very different wavelengths on how to deal with this.
Come on.
I want to talk to Terry. She's my friend too. Right, fine, let's talk and let's call her. Cove looked away and pulled his phone out. He went over and stood at the side as he was dialing. Cove let it ring and ring and ring and ring. Terry didn't answer. There wasn't even an option to leave a voice message. Your shoulders slumped, and Cove looked even more troubled, if that was possible. He turned to you as if it was for some lifeline. Could you try calling? I'm just gonna send a text and just like, hey, I was trying to reach you, call me or something. Yeah. You took up your phone once more. Unfortunately, after another set of intermediate rings, the line went dead. No answer, no voicemail. Hanging up, you saw Cove visibly deflate. He wrapped his arms, eyes distant, openly struggling with the whole affair. I don't like this at all. They are fighting, we barely know anything, and we're supposed to just wait and see? Despite it only being a minute since he texted Terry, Cove checked his phone again. He was desperate for progress, for something. You frowned as you watched him. You're making me anxious. Cove stared hard at the screen as though he's trying to will a new message to appear. As the words sank in, he forlornly let his gaze fall to the side. Cove's voice came out small and quiet, and that you would have missed it if he hadn't already taken your full attention. Sorry. He nodded slowly. Cove closed his eyes, letting out a sigh as though he was trying to clear the pressure away from his chest. Glancing at your own phone in vain, you considered sending a text message to you if that would even help. This is making you feel all twisted up. You could see the same sort of discomfort in Cove's face. That was something consoling, at least. Words drifted from his mouth like a feeble breeze. I'll be okay, I'll be fine, it's gonna be okay. Yeah. This music always makes me so sleepy. I say this multiple times. It's good music, but she's also sleepy. You could hear it both in your voices and how much you wanted to give and receive reassurance. You tried to believe the sentiments, weak as they were.
Well,
what do you even say if we do hear from one of them? His pacing resumed as he attempted to answer his own question, but it was all written over his face that he had no idea how to tackle any of this. He slowly came to another halt like a gear winding down. You should find out Terry's side of the story. Nothing could be done until you knew what she thought of this. That much was certain. Cove nodded, slightly in agreement. For several minutes you both remained there in silence, drowning in your thoughts. Eventually Cove turned around. I'm gonna text Terry that we already know what's going on. Maybe she'll have an easier time talking to us because you won't have to pretend or explain. Can't do that. Marion didn't say it was alright to admit she talked to us. Miranda called you, asking if Terry had opened up about it. And then she told us about what happened in private. She didn't know if Terry would be okay with any of that. That doesn't make it fine to do that to her. Terry isn't talking to Miranda at all. If you want to tell Terry, you should still talk to Miranda about it first.
I get it.
I get it, we could, but Miranda wanted it to be a big secret, then she should have just said that. And if she does want to hide it, I don't think we should. We should still call Miranda. It's only fair. For a moment, Cove thought about what you said. Calmly, you added, I'm not saying we can't tell Terry ever, but we just have to talk to her about it so she understands. A small noise escaped from his lips. All the frustration at the situation crumbled away from his face, and he spoke softly. Thanks, Luna. I'm glad it's just not me with all this happening. Cove looked out one last look at his phone, then pulled away. His efforts at a smile was meager but earnest.
It's okay.
You can just forget about it for a while. Terry will talk to us when she wants to. That sounds good to me. And you meant it, exhaling some of your own concern away. The last thing you wanted was to fight with Cove. A silence stretched on for what felt like hours. But it wasn't long. Well, it wasn't likely that long before there was a knock on your bedroom door, and Mom peeked in. Just wanted to check in on you. Oh, Cove, when did you get here? When she saw you're there, she opened the door all the way. Mom was standing there as well. She slipped past her wife to come inside to your space. What's going on? We're okay. It's just, Miranda called earlier. She and Terry are fighting, but none of us know what's going on with Terry. Your parents exchanged a meaningful look, though his meaning was lost on me.
I am so sorry.
That's too bad. I'm sorry there's trouble with your friend, sweetie. Is there anything we can do to help? Out of the corner of your eye, you saw Cove rub his arm awkwardly, unable to add anything. No, we're just waiting to see if Terry calls, or texts, or if Miranda does. Well, we can at least help you take your mind off things while we're waiting.
Yeah.
Another great idea, Lanny. We could get the whole gang together for some quality time. Mom gave you a soft smile and added, This would be good, especially since it might help make up for what happened at the farmer's market. Yes, it'll be wonderful. I'll go see what Liz is up to right now. Excited, she fluttered a few steps away and then stopped. She pivoted on her heels and raised a single finger, flashing a big smile at Cove.
It's no trouble.
And, of course, Cliff would be welcome too. Knowing your family was always there for you, that couldn't be underestimated. And in fact, it meant everything to you that your moms cared so much. Thanks, Mom. Yeah, thanks. That's nice of you.
You're welcome.
You're both very welcome. Don't sweat it, not-so-kiddos. Leave things to us. Just relax and we'll call you when it's all together. You nodded and your mom's dispersed for now, springing into action for their impromptu get-together. You flopped down on your bed, feeling like you could sink into it and disappear. Meanwhile, Cove took a spot in the chair off to the side. You sighed at the same time, and Cove pulled into a bent smile at that. He gave his phone another quick check, and his eyebrows furrowed. Still nothing? Yep, this is crap, huh? Yep. Cove clearly chewed the inside of his cheek as if to mimic the stress that was clearly eating away at him. Cove, what's wrong? What's really wrong? One disagreement doesn't make you act like this. That guy pointed and paused in his movements. Cove was trying to put his thoughts together, and he spoke in a fragile voice. When people you care about, when they're unhappy with each other, there's nothing you can do. At least when you're in a fight with yourself, you have some responsibility, some control over it all. I wish it didn't have to happen, but this is impossible, so... Oh, well, I guess. He's attempting to give a nonchalant shrug after what was pitiful. Yeah, it makes me feel horrible, too. In your lap, your hands momentarily curled into fists. This kind of powerlessness, it wore you down. You looked at Cove and were reassured by his understanding nod. There was a question you had to ask. Is it because of what happened with your parents? Cove ran a hand through his hair, a strange smile spreading across his lips. For him, this pain struck close to his heart. Just as quickly as it had come, his smile was gone, lost amidst his faraway gaze. Yeah, you got it, just like my parents. Despite knowing him for so many years, Cove had never spoken of the years before he moved to Sunset Bird, before his parents separated in any detail. He whispered his thoughts distantly, almost unconcerned with whenever you could hear them or not. They used to fight all the time. I think they got along when I was a baby. I mean, they have had to have wanted to be with each other at some point, but when I was old enough to remember anything, it was really bad. There was always something wrong, and I could never help. I just wanted them to be happy. You tried to imagine your moms breaking up, and the very idea scared you, but Cove had to endure that for real. I'm sorry.
Luna, don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it, it's okay. Despite that revelation, Cove gazed reassuringly at you. It's not like that anymore. Things are so different now. I don't even really think about it. Again, the sorrow reasserted itself. When he continued, you could barely hear him. Though, I guess it's pretty obvious I haven't forgotten either. You hugged him. You crossed the room, picking up a little speed, and Cove's eyes widened. You shot out of the chair and stood waiting for you with a nonplussed look? Probably non-puzzled look. When you collided into him, wrapping your arms around his middle and knocking the air out of his lungs, all mystery is gone. Cove squeaked.
Oh.
God. The way that they do tears just looks so good. Just like, it's just very, very subtle, but like it works. You return the gesture longingly. Exhaling, you lean down and press your cheek into the warmth of his neck. The tension stuck into your chest, released like a river flowing into the ocean that was Cove. The firmness of his hug told you that Cove didn't plan on letting go anytime soon. You both needed the comfort and the closeness just for a little bit longer. When he finally did, the two of you took a seat again, but this time side by side on your bed.
Well...
Today was a lot, huh? Yeah, it was. You leaned against him. Resting the side of your head on his shoulder, you glanced up at his face. Cove watched you affectionately. In that gentle gaze, you finally felt like everything was going to be okay. No matter what happens, we can make it work. His mouth pulled into a bent smile at that. You chuckled, resting your head comfortably back on his shoulder.
Me too.
Yeah, I think so too. After a while, you stayed like that. Comfortable quiet fell between you, and the sun fell with it. The warming calm ended with Cove gasped sharply. You spun, half expecting to find him nursing an injury, but instead found him staring straight ahead. What?
Oh my god.
Oh my god, I think my phone just vibrated. Well, you better find out if it did. Right. He patted his pockets, fumbling in his panic, and yanked the phone out. The force of the action nearly catapulted the device out of his grip entirely, but he caught it just in time. His eyes honed in on the screen. It's oh, thank God, she says she's sorry. He looked back at you, his eyes wide as his nerves started to fray once more. What should I say? Ask her if she's talking to Miranda. Okay. You nodded and began typing. Cove was aware that his blunt words could sometimes make others bristle, even though he never meant to hurt them to hurt. Cove's phone buzzed nearly as soon as the message was sent. It's Terry again. She's talking to us. You leaned in, watching the conversation unfold on Cove's screen.
Right.
She's actually gonna call. Cove held his breath as he waited. His circle of friends has already been small, so he managed to avoid the stress of seeing friends fighting. You suspected he was feeling this more keenly because this was so uncommon and the friends were so important to him. His phone rang out. Cove jammed the answer button. He switched the phone into speaker mode, allowing you to participate in the conversation. But despite his immediate reaction, his voice lacked the same resolve when he spoke. Hey. It was a tentative, a white flag fluttering in the wind. Luna's here too. Hey, Terry.
Hey.
Hey, buddies. Terry's voice was barely recognizable without her usual quick pattern energy.
Are you okay?
Are things okay? I don't know, probably not. Cove tensed, his free hand coiling into an anxious fist. What happens? You heard Terry sigh over the phone as she unburned herself. Pretty much, I was at Randy's house when we decided to watch a movie. She was like, she super liked it that I'd never seen before. Turns out there's a lot of those. We watched one, then another, and another. We were having so much fun. Each time one was finished, she had another one to share with me. I didn't really think about the time. I only wanted to say yes to Randy and watch her movies. She spoke wishfully, but her words were filled with affection. Where's Randy? No, I wasn't thinking about my schedule or what time it was. Totally. Then I finally saw the time and I was like, oh no, it's way too late. I already knew I couldn't stay. She took a deep breath, her voice becoming softer when she resumed talking. I was so stressed out I couldn't deal with it. Miranda was wanting to help. She kept coming up with ways to make it better and trying to figure out why I was so upset and stuff. I was trying to answer all of her questions, but there were so many. But I couldn't really answer all of them. I didn't even know why some of her ideas didn't work with me. It might make a headache, and I still had the first problem, and Randy was there trying to help, blasting all these questions and suggestions at me faster than I could even think. She gulped, audibly sniffing. I got frustrated and just told her to leave me alone, but then she wanted to talk about why I wanted that, and we started having a fight in the kitchen and woke Randy's dad up. We told her about I wanted to go home, but my parents couldn't get me, so Miss Eric offered to do it. Problem solved? No, I mean, yes, kind of, but I accepted because I definitely couldn't stay then, not after throwing a racket and turning into a big deal. But I feel awful and embarrassed. Why did I yell at Yandy and hurt her feelings? I made her dad lose sleep by waking him up and having to drive me home. What do I say after that? I have no idea. I don't even know where to start. And I don't want to make things worse by saying the wrong thing and fighting again. So, I'm not talking. Terry, Randy isn't mad that you didn't want her to stay or that you fought. She just wants to feel like you can talk to her. I mean, you can say whatever you want. She'll listen. Not talking to her at all is pretty much the only wrong way to go about it. Terry lamented mournfully on the other side of the line, but he had a point. Unless she faced Miranda again, there'd be no resolution. You looked at Cove, hunched over the phone, staring pensively at it and searching for a solution. This couldn't be solved with the other key party missing. But what if you brought them in? Your phone was still free. You hung up Miranda without saying a word. Terry might flee from the call if you told her what was going on. You wanted to make sure they spoke to one another. You slipped your phone out in the background. You could hear Cove and Terry still talking. And you began dialing while they were distracted, and then set the speaker and waited for Miranda to join.
Hi.
Hi, Luna. Her voice was so distant as though her thoughts were elsewhere, but it was loud enough for your needs. What was that? Terry shouted a question, confirming that she heard Miranda's arrival too.
What happened?
What's that? Cove glanced over his shoulder towards you, spotting your phone in your hand. He smiled ruefully, and he sussed your game. Randy? Terry? Realizing that they could hear each other was dawning over all parties now. He decided to help along with an explanation. Miranda's on speaker with me. Terry's on speaker with Cove. Oh. There was a pause while two of them digested this information, considering their next words. You and Cove exchanged looks, waiting on the wall between them to break and wondering who would be the one to do it. As the quiet dragged on, you caught Cove chewing his cheek. He must have weighed up the same question as you, whether to encourage the conversation along or leave Miranda and Terry to resolve it themselves. The answer came in form of one sniff, followed by another from Cove's phone.
Sorry,
Randy. I hope you still like me. What? You were acting as if you didn't like me. Her tone was defensive, no doubt as a result of her wounds from last night still being raw.
What?
No way. Everyone likes Randy. You're wonderful. Your eyes met Cove's. His phone tilted towards you, capturing the call indirectly. You moved your phone closer to his, hoping that the signal was strong enough to convey every nuance of tone. Cove did likewise, bringing his cell right up next to yours, even bumping against it as he shifted his grip. I don't know what to say. The only reason I wouldn't talk with you, if I'd known the answer, I would have told you right away. Miranda murmured on the other end of the line. You didn't want to stay. Anything I tried to do bothered you, and you couldn't have told me you didn't know. Yeah, I think I was angry with myself. I did a dumb thing and didn't want help with it. I wanted to be mad and just deal with it myself, and it made me keep doing these dumb things. Oh. When she spoke again, her voice was quiet, as tender and vulnerable as the words.
I'm sorry.
Staying up late watching stuff was all my fault. I had to find a way to fix it. That's why well, anyways. But I should have given you space. I'm sorry for being so pushy and sensitive. Hardly. Miranda Eric having a flaw? I never heard such a crazy thing. Miranda let out a ghost of a giggle. Cove cleared his throat. Maybe you should call each other now? Sorry.
Sure.
Can do. Thanks for giving me the kick in the butt to do this already. Randy Mandy, I'm gonna call you right now. Bye, Luna and Cove. She hung up after squeezing in another quick goodbye, though not giving you or Cove room to respond in kind. Miranda laughed, the noise tinkling gently like wind chimes in the summer breeze.
You're really nice.
Thanks for listening and helping. I'm gonna hang up now so I can answer Terry's call. Bye. 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 You got this. Miranda hung up, still chuckling directly as the call ended. The room felt empty without the other voices in it. Cove expelled a sigh that crashed through the newly fallen silence. He dropped his arms to the side, letting his hand hang down like a puppet rest. Thank God. The day's events had drained you. Cove scratched his face, his expression cloudy. I think I need to find a better way for dealing with conflict because that was awful. I think you did okay given the circumstances. Cove meekly smiled and rubbed his eyes, weariness creeping over him, and mumbled his next words. We can talk about it another day. Conflict resolution methods?
Huh?
Oh, no, forget it. Your eyebrows raised and then a light bulb went off in your head. Oh, before Miranda called, didn't you say that there was something you wanted to say? Cove's original visit had been thrown so off kilter that it was a struggle to wind your memory back when he first turned up. Now you did, though. You remember that he had been perky when he'd arrived this afternoon. Was it good news? Cove brushed his hands against the now folded arms shyly. Well, yeah, maybe. I'm not exactly sure if it counts as news or even good. It just is what it is. I'm happy about it, though. Come on, no more hands. You gotta tell me now. Cove chuckled awkwardly, a hand creeping up to ruffle his hairs on the back of his head. It's fine. If you want to hear, I can tell you. He shifted on his feet as if a different posture might give him the support he needed for the conversation. I didn't want to make a big deal, but I kind of, well, not kind of. I just know what my sexuality is now. Oh. A real subject change, huh? He chuckled. True, it was unexpected, but you're glad that Cove had come to understand himself more, and glad that he wanted to share that with you. Ah, that's great. You can tell me. Cove drew a breath, straightening up. I'm demisexual, so you know, most of the time I don't really have those kinds of physical wants and stuff. Hey! Ironically enough, I am a demi as well. Just for a fun thing for you guys as well. Just because it's just fits with me. Yeah. But yeah, so you know, most of the time I don't really have those kinds of feelings, physical wants and stuff. It's only in some situations where I'm already really emotional and romantically connected with someone that I start to ever think about anything sexual, and it's only with them. I hadn't heard the term until pretty recently, and it just made a lot more sense once I knew what it meant. And I had a word that fit how I felt.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm pararomantic because I never really had a preference for a specific gender or anything, so yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, because for me, I'm demi-aromatic, which is basically the romantic side of the thing. Sexuality-wise, I hadn't fully figured it out yet, but definitely at least demi-aromatic. Cove looked down at the floor, being so open direct about a matter that personal. You were sure he spent a long time trying to figure it out. It seemed to be kind of weird for him. Despite that, there was a small proud smile on his face, and when he looked up again, his gaze was steadfast. All this talk about Cove's sexuality made you reflect about your own. Your view had evolved since you were younger. You only seem to have physical attraction in specific cases and situations. You only seem to have romantic attraction in specific cases and situations. But specifically, when you came to how you felt toward men, you found them attractive. You'd be happy to be with a guy someday. And how you felt toward women? Yeah. You found them attractive, but you hadn't thought about being with a girl. And how you felt toward NBs. You found them attractive, but you haven't thought about being with someone who is non-binary. You already told Cove about your own sexuality in the past. You've always been supportive about the topic, listening actively and supporting you in your whatever conclusions you reached. It is heartwarming that you'd reached a point where you felt similarly capable of discussing his own. You could tell that Cove felt like it had been an emotionally draining day, now that it come to a close. Everything wrapped up neatly with a bow on top. You had some good talks with your friends and each other. A lot had been brought out onto the light, and you'd come out not only knowing each other better, but yourself too. But there is still something about Cove that Cove didn't know. Something that had gnawed at you that many times over the years, but never told Cove about how you first met his dad. You've always held it back from him, unsure how he would take the revelation. His dad seemed to have done the same, as Cove didn't seem to have heard it from Mr. Holton either. You decided the secret hung over you long enough. It was time to tell Cove about the deal his father proposed. You were ready. Today was the day to tell Cove the full story of how you come to know him. Cove? He hooked his attention with the way he spoke his name. There's one more thing I'd like to talk about. Cove raised an eyebrow but didn't say anything. He was listening. Took a deep breath and stated the situation plainly. Remember back when we first met? I actually met your dad first. You'd run off and he was waiting outside to see if you'd come back. That was when he spotted me on my way home from the day. Cove nodded, eyebrows still raised. You could see that he was trying to predict where this was going. You could also see that he was failing. He offered me $20 to be friends with you. That's the story. Cove's eyes widened in huge circles as you uttered the final sentence. His mouth hung open, ready to speak, but no words followed. You stood still, giving him time to process this revelation. You watched the layers of subterfuge being ripped away from his eyebrows. These rose higher on his forehead, followed by the deepening frown. Then Cove burst into roaring laughter. That's horrible! He tried to bribe you? And you were, what, 8? Dad, why? Oh my god! Cove bent over with laughter, one arm supporting his sides. He covered his eyes with the other hand, hiding the tears of mirth sprouting in the corners. You laughed along with him, glad that you could finally share this ridiculous anecdote with him, and relieved that he wasn't upset by the secrets. Eventually your giggles wound down. Cove wiped the last of his tears from his eyes, still grinning, as he took his wheezing breaths. Wow. Shook his head. That's my dad. I guess there's always another Clifford surprise waiting in the wings. But $20, huh? What a cheapskate. Considering how much time we spent together since I moved in, you were paid pennies on the hours. Not even that much, just 1 penny an hour, a fraction of a penny. I know. It seemed like the most money I had ever seen at once, but I was being paid peanuts. I should have haggled. Cove gave you a lopsided smile with a shake of his head.
Sorry.
Sorry, you definitely got the short end of the stick. I gotta grow up with you. What's the best deal I could have gotten? He stared at you, his previous expression swept away with shock before his face softened into an affectionate smile.
Me too.
I feel the same way about you, Luna. His words were sincere, a genuine confirmation of his feelings towards you. I couldn't have asked for anything better. No sooner than his words were out of the air, Cove ducked his head to hide the blush spreading over his face. He breathed a satisfied sigh of relief as the weight you've been carrying from childhood was lifted from your shoulders. Cove shyly ran a hand up and down his arm. a gentle smile lifting his features, and he knew that he was glad to be where he was today. Thanks for telling me. No problem.
Hey!
Hey, we should probably head downstairs soon if your moms are still wanting to get everyone to get together. Yeah, that's right. With a renewed spring in your step, you were led the way out of your room. You got downstairs to find the others already assembling and waiting.
Hi.
Hello. Hey. Good to see you both.
Hey!
Yeah, here you were. We were trying to control everyone to a group, but the two of you were already upstairs this whole time. Of course we were together. You paid Luna to stick with me, or did you forget? The statement was meaningless to your family, who looked to each other for answers in vain. Mr. Holton, who got the message loud and clear, seemed embarrassed. He chuckled nervously, rubbing the back of his neck, and then his hand froze in place.
Huh?
Wait, when did you figure that out? You never mentioned it growing up. Today, just now, Luna told me. Mr. Holden's hand awkwardly slid off his neck as he stared at Cove, the answer catching him off guard. Out of the corner of your eye, you saw Mom mouthing questions at you. Everyone was waiting for an explanation. Similarly to his son, Mr. Holden broke into laughter and turned to address you, a hand lay over his chest. Can't believe my partner in crime betrayed me. After all these years, I thought we had something. His voice was deliberately light, assuring you that it was a joke. He shook his head, throwing off the jest as he spoke seriously.
No worries.
I have to admit, I'm actually just as amazed that you kept it under your hat this long. It had to be done. Huh? I wanted to know why my dad kept it a secret all this time. Mr. Holden looked back to Cove, lines forming in his forehead, his eyes wide, signaling to his wordless apology. Funny enough, if you never spill the secret, Mr. Holden actually reveals it in Act 4 during the wedding between you and Cove. But I figured it'd be funnier now to just reveal it. Mr. Holden looked back to Cove, lines forming his forehead as his wide eyes signaled a wordless apology. Can we hear exactly what the secret is? The suspense is killing us.
Right.
Alright, I better get everyone up to speed. He held up his hands, palms out, pacifying his audience, or perhaps holding them up as a shield in advance. The first day I met Luna, I had been worrying about Cove being alone for the summer.
Well...
There weren't a lot of kids around, and he wasn't exactly on best terms with me at the time. He glanced around at your family, gauging their responses. I felt like this was my one shot, so I kind of offered them $20 to be friends with Cove, and added that they couldn't tell him about it. Liz gasped, Ma staring incredulously at Mr. Holton, while Mom's eyebrows had retreated into her hairline. You and Cove, already knowing the story, were the ones unaffected. But after a while, I really did honestly forget it ever happened. He raised his hands high and now leveled his shoulders. Not a bad idea, you thought. If Mom had felt inclined to throw a cushion at him, he'd probably managed to block it in time. I know, that's bad, but I had so many grand ideas over the years, it's hard to keep track of them all. Cove smiled, placing his hands on his hips, shaking his head at his father's antics.
Seriously?
I can't believe you, though. Also, I totally can. Your moms were less indulgent. The shock had ebbed away to displeasure. Mom's foot was tapping rapidly as she frowned at the next-door neighbor, while Ma had her arms crossed over her chest and her lips pursed. I'm sorry, Luna, and I'm sorry to your parents. That was way out of bounds. Don't worry about it. Everything worked out. Your moms gave each other that look where they seemed to communicate with your eyes alone. Well, that's that then, and it won't happen again.
Absolutely.
Definitely won't.
Alright.
Good. It was a little surprising that they were letting him off the hook, but on the other hand, it was a long time ago, and that you were sure your moms remember those painful early days of Cove's arrival to you. Mr. Holton wasn't a potential bad influence anymore, so a lecture would be pretty moot. Instead, your mom gave him a lenient smile.
In that case,
Now that that's settled, why don't we find something to do? Nods of agreement cascaded through the group in a couple waves at the suggestion. Mr. Holden's shoulders slumped with a release of tension, and he brought up his hands down, tucking them away into his pockets. The two families spent the rest of the afternoon together, chatting and catching up. Though he accepted Mr. Holden's apology, Cove caught up for the last time by pitching the last jab at his dad. Your moms didn't seem amused, the news still too fresh, but you enjoyed finally being able to laugh about it freely. You truly relaxed knowing that there were no longer any secrets between the two families. You felt free, and yet simultaneously more tied together than you had been before. And with that, I'm going to save. And I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope you guys have a good day, night, week, month of your lives, and may the stars forever guide your path wherever they might lead you into the future. And I hope to see you guys again soon.